The alien city stood under two burning suns, tall silver towers shining like blades against the sky. The air felt heavy, quiet, controlled. No birds. No wind. No sound of life. Only order. Humans stood in chains in the center of a wide black platform. They were dirty, tired, and silent. Around them, armored alien guards formed a perfect circle. Their armor was smooth and dark, without scratches, without emotion. At the top of the stairs stood her Commander Vialara. She was not the tallest alien, but she was the most feared. Her armor was white and gold, different from the others. Her face was calm, almost cold. Her eyes were sharp and bright, like they could see through bone. She had conquered 12 systems in 6 years. 3 civilizations had surrendered before she even arrived. Her name was spoken in whispers across the galaxy. Today, she had come to see the human resistance leader. The humans had fought longer than expected. They had weaker ships. Fewer weapons. No advanced shields. Yet they kept fighting. Even when losing. The Alien Council wanted to understand why. The human man stood in front of her now. His hands were locked in energy cuffs. Blood had dried near his eyebrow. His shirt was torn. But he stood straight. His name was Elias. He did not bow. The other humans lowered their heads when Vialara stepped forward. Even some alien guards shifted slightly in respect. Elias did not move. Vialara stopped 3 steps away from him. Her voice was calm, smooth, without anger. "Your species continues to resist," she said. "You cannot win. Why do you fight?" The platform was silent. Even the air felt frozen. Elias lifted his eyes and looked directly at her. Not at the ground. Not at her feet. At her. That alone made several guards tighten their grip on their weapons. No human had ever held her gaze for more than a second. She waited for him to beg. Or threaten. Or scream. He did none of that. He spoke quietly. "We fight because we are alive." A guard stepped forward. Vialara lifted one finger. The guard stopped immediately. She studied him. "You are outmatched," she said. "Your cities fall. Your fleets burn. Your people die. Yet you still refuse surrender." Elias swallowed once, but his voice stayed steady. "Winning is not the only reason to fight." A small murmur passed through the alien officers watching from above. Vialara's eyes narrowed slightly. "Then what is your reason?" For a second, Elias looked at the other humans behind him. They looked broken. Afraid. Waiting for him to say something brave. He turned back to her. And then he said the words no one had ever said to her before. "You are lonely." Silence. It was not normal silence. It was heavy. Sharp. Several alien guards lifted their weapons instantly. One officer gasped. Vialara did not move. But her eyes widened. Just slightly. Elias continued before fear could take him. "You stand above everyone," he said. "No one speaks to you honestly. They fear you. They obey you. But they do not know you." A guard pressed the barrel of his weapon against Elias's head. Vialara still did not look away. Her voice came lower now. "You dare to speak about me?" "Yes," Elias said. His heart was racing. His hands were shaking inside the cuffs. But his voice remained calm. "You conquered planets," he continued. "You command fleets. But you stand alone. No one challenges you. No one tells you the truth. That is not power. That is isolation." The guards looked confused. Angry. The alien officers above whispered to each other. This was not expected. Humans were supposed to break. They were supposed to cry. They were supposed to beg. Elias did none of those things. He looked at her like she was just another being. Not a god. Not a monster. A person. Violara stepped closer. So close that the guard's weapon had to lower. She was now only one step away from him. You believe you understand me, she said quietly. I think no one tries to, Elias answered. The wind moved for the first time that day, soft and strange between the towers. For the first time in years, something inside Violara shifted. Not anger. Not pride. Something else. She studied his face. No hatred. No mockery. No fear strong enough to break him. Only honesty. Around them, the galaxy still burned. Human cities were still falling. Alien fleets still waited in orbit. But in that moment, the entire war felt smaller than one sentence. You are lonely. If you enjoy powerful science fiction stories like this, consider subscribing to this channel so you don't miss what happens next. Violara slowly turned her head toward her officers. Remove the others, she ordered. The humans were pulled away quickly, confused and afraid. Elias remained. Alone with her. The guards hesitated. Leave, she said again. Even the guards obeyed. Now the platform was empty except for the two of them. Two suns above. A conquered world below. A war between species. And a single human who had just said the one thing no one ever dared to say. Violara looked at him again, her eyes no longer cold, but searching. Explain, she said. And for the first time since the war began, the most feared commander in the galaxy waited for a human to speak. The platform felt different now, quieter, almost fragile. The twin suns still burned above the alien city, but their light no longer felt dominant. It felt exposed. Elias stood alone before Commander Violara. The energy cuffs around his wrists hummed softly. His throat was dry. His body ached. But the fear inside him had changed shape. It was no longer fear of death. It was fear of saying the wrong thing. Violara watched him without speaking. Up close, her presence felt heavier. Not violent. Not cruel. Just powerful in a way that bent the air around her. You claimed I am lonely, she said at last. Her voice was controlled, but something beneath it had shifted. Explain. Elias breathed slowly. He knew this was the most dangerous moment of his life. Not when he was captured. Not when cities fell. This was more dangerous. Because this was personal. You rule through fear, he said carefully. Every being here lowers their eyes when you pass. They follow your orders without question. That is strength, she replied immediately. It is control, he answered. Not the same thing. Her eyes sharpened. A faint ripple of tension moved through her posture. You speak as if you understand power, she said. Your species is losing. Yes, Elias said. We are losing ships. We are losing ground. We are losing cities. But we are not losing each other. She did not interrupt him. That is why you cannot understand us, he continued. When one of us falls, another stands up. Not because they are ordered to. Not because they are afraid. But because they choose to. Violara stepped slightly to the side, circling him slowly as if studying a strange creature. In my empire, she said, order prevents chaos. Fear prevents rebellion. Discipline ensures survival. And what ensures loyalty? Elias asked quietly. She stopped walking. My command ensures loyalty. No, Elias said. Your command ensures obedience. The word hung in the air like a blade. Far above them, hidden within the silver towers, members of the alien council watched through silent observation chambers. They had ordered this interrogation to learn about human resistance. Instead, they were watching something unexpected. Violara's voice lowered. You imply my people do not follow me willingly. I think they follow you because they have no other option, Elias replied. When was the last time someone disagreed with you openly and survived? Her silence was answer enough. The alien empire valued strength above all else. Weakness was removed. Doubt was erased. Questions were punished. It had made them unstoppable for centuries. But it had also created something fragile. Elias felt the risk rising with every sentence. One wrong tone. One wrong word. And she would end him. You stand above everyone, he said, softer now. But standing above is different from standing with. Her gaze flickered. Just for a second. You assume I desire companionship, she said coldly. I assume you are tired, he answered. That made her react. A small, sharp movement. Not rage. Not violence. Something more defensive. You know nothing of me. I know what isolation looks like, Elias said. Leaders who are feared cannot rest. They cannot trust. They cannot show doubt. They carry everything alone. The wind moved again across the black platform. You think I am burdened, she said. I think you are alone at the top, he replied. Inside the observation chamber, council members exchanged uneasy looks. This human was not breaking. He was dissecting. Vayalara stepped closer again, almost close enough to touch him. If I wished, she said calmly, I could end your life with a single command. I know, Elias said. And yet you continue. Yes. Why? He hesitated only a second. Because someone needed to say it. Silence stretched between them. Across the city, alien citizens continued their routines, unaware that their commander was standing still, listening to a prisoner instead of executing him. You believe honesty is strength, she said slowly. Yes. In my empire, honesty without permission is rebellion. In ours, Elias said, it is survival. She studied his face again. No arrogance. No mockery. Just conviction. Your species is irrational, she said. We are emotional, he corrected. Emotion clouds judgment. Emotion connects us. Vayalara turned away from him briefly, looking out across the alien skyline. Endless towers. Perfect symmetry. Flawless order. An empire built on control. When I was elevated to command, she said quietly, almost to herself, I removed those who questioned me. Efficiency increased. Expansion accelerated. Victory followed. And what else followed? Elias asked. She did not answer. Because she knew. Distance. Silence. Empty chambers. Officers who never challenged her strategies. Advisors who never offered alternatives. Council members who feared her strength more than they respected it. The council believes humans are dangerous because you resist logically superior force, she said. We resist because we are connected, Elias replied. You cannot defeat connection with fear. Her eyes narrowed. You believe you can change my empire with words. No, he said honestly. I believe words can show cracks that are already there. Above them, the council began transmitting private messages to each other. Concern rose. This was not interrogation anymore. It was influence. You are attempting manipulation, Vayalara said. If I was manipulating you, Elias answered, I would tell you what you want to hear. That made her pause again. And what is it you believe I want to hear? That you are unstoppable. That your empire is perfect. That humans are weak. And instead you say. That power without trust creates silence. And silence creates distance. And distance creates weakness. The last word echoed in the open air. Weakness. The forbidden concept. In the alien empire, weakness was eradicated. But what if weakness was hiding in plain sight? Vayalara slowly faced him again. For centuries, she said, no species has spoken to me this way. Maybe that is the problem, Elias replied. Far above, the council members finally reached a quiet agreement. This human was not just a prisoner. He was a threat. Not because of weapons. Not because of strategy. But because of something far more dangerous. Perspective. And as Commander Violara stood in silence, considering words no one had ever dared say to her, the council began preparing a decision that could change the direction of the entire war. The council chamber high above the city glowed with cold blue light. Tall alien figures stood in silence, watching the live projection of the black platform below. The image showed Commander Violara standing still in front of the human prisoner. Neither had moved for several seconds. To the council, that alone was alarming. Humans were supposed to break under pressure. They were supposed to plead for survival. Instead, this one spoke calmly, almost gently, as if he were teaching instead of defending. Back on the platform, Violara studied Elias in a way she had never studied an enemy before. Not for weakness. Not for tactical advantage. She studied him to understand something she had never encountered in war. You claim your species survives because of connection, she said. Explain this difference. Elias felt the weight of unseen eyes watching. He knew the council would not allow this conversation to continue forever. His time was limited. Every word mattered. Your empire values strength, he said slowly. Physical power. Strategic dominance. Control. Humans value those things too. But they are not our foundation. And what is your foundation? She asked. Each other. Violara's expression did not change, but her silence encouraged him to continue. When one of our cities falls, Elias said, we do not fight harder because we are ordered to. We fight because someone we love was there. When a soldier stands in front of danger, he is not thinking about glory. He is thinking about the people behind him. In my empire, Violara said, soldiers fight for the expansion of civilization. In ours, Elias replied, we fight for home. The word lingered. Home. It was a concept aliens understood as territory. Humans understood it as belonging. Violara began walking slowly across the platform again, her movements controlled, deliberate. She was thinking. You are suggesting that emotional attachment makes you stronger, she said. Yes. Emotion creates vulnerability. It also creates courage. She stopped walking and faced him again. Courage is the willingness to face fear, she said. That is universal. Yes, Elias agreed. But the reason behind courage changes everything. He looked past her briefly, toward the horizon where alien ships hovered like dark stars. Your soldiers fight because they must obey. Ours fight because they choose to protect. Violara tilted her head slightly. Choice, she repeated. Yes. Choice makes sacrifice meaningful. For the first time, something shifted visibly in her posture. A memory passed through her mind. Centuries ago, when she was a lower officer, she had questioned a superior's decision during a campaign. It had not been rebellion. It had been concern. The superior had been removed within days. The lesson had been clear. Questioning weakens structure. Since then, she had never questioned upward again. The council chamber above grew restless. They could not hear Violara's thoughts, but they saw her stillness. Her hesitation. This human is influencing her, one council member said quietly. Prepare corrective measures, another replied. On the platform, Elias sensed a subtle change in her. Do you remember, he asked carefully, a time before you became commander? Her eyes sharpened. You presume much. Do you remember what it felt like to stand beside someone instead of above them? That question landed deeper than any insult could have. Violara did remember. She remembered serving under a leader she respected. A leader who listened before commanding. A leader who was eventually replaced because he was considered too lenient. Leniency was labeled weakness. Weakness was removed. The Empire became stronger. Or so they believed. You assume our system is flawed, she said. I think it is efficient, Elias answered honestly. But efficiency is not the same as strength. Define strength then, she demanded. He hesitated only briefly. Strength is the ability to endure without losing who you are. Her eyes narrowed. And you believe we have lost something. I think you gave up something, he said quietly. To become what you are. The wind moved again between the silver towers. Below the platform, alien citizens moved in perfect lines, unaware that their leader was being questioned in a way she had never allowed before. You speak boldly for someone in chains, she said. I speak because I am already defeated, Elias replied. You cannot take more from me. So I can afford honesty. That answer unsettled her more than defiance would have. You accept your defeat. No, he said. I accept reality. But defeat is different from surrender. Your fleets are nearly destroyed. Yes. Your planets are falling. Yes. Then what remains? Elias looked directly into her eyes again. Hope. A faint flicker crossed her expression. Hope is irrational. Hope is human. Above them, the Council initiated a silent transmission to Violara's armor interface. A warning signal flashed inside her neural display. Human subject demonstrating high psychological influence. Terminate or transfer immediately. Violara ignored it. You believe hope can overcome superior force, she said. I believe hope keeps us standing long enough to change outcomes, Elias replied. She considered that. The alien empire had never needed hope. It relied on certainty. On guaranteed victory. On calculated expansion. Humans fought battles they could not win. And yet they continued. Why do you not hate me? She asked suddenly. The question surprised even Elias. Because hate would make me simple, he said. And this is not simple. She studied him carefully. You have lost your homeworld's outer defenses. You have lost millions. Yes. And still you speak without hatred. Yes. Why? Because hatred would not change what you are, he said. Understanding might. That was the most dangerous sentence yet. Understanding required empathy. Empathy required vulnerability. The council chamber grew tense. Commander Violara is deviating, one council member said. Authorize override if necessary, another replied. Back on the platform, Violara stepped closer again. You are suggesting that my empire lacks something essential. I am suggesting, Elias said slowly, that humans are different in a way you did not calculate. And what difference is that? We fight for people, not power. Silence fell again. For the first time in years, Commander Violara felt uncertainty. Not about the war. Not about strategy. But about something deeper. If humans truly drew strength from connection rather than control, then defeating them physically would not be enough. And if her empire lacked that same foundation, then perhaps its power was not as complete as it appeared. High above, the council finalized a decision. If the human continued speaking, he would not just threaten morale. He would threaten ideology. And ideology was the true foundation of empire. On the platform below, Elias felt the shift in the air. He did not know what the council was planning. But he knew one thing. He had just shown her a crack. And once someone sees a crack, they can never pretend the surface is perfect again. A sharp pulse suddenly vibrated through the air around Commander Violara. It was silent to human ears, but her armor reacted instantly. Thin lines of blue light moved across her chest plate. A private signal from the High Council. Elias saw the faint glow and understood something had changed. Violara stood completely still. Her eyes unfocused for half a second as the council's message streamed directly into her neural interface. Directive issued. Human subject classified as ideological threat. Immediate execution recommended. Deviation from protocol will be reviewed. Her jaw tightened almost invisibly. Above the platform, in the towering council chamber, 12 elder figures stood in a half-circle around a floating projection of the scene below. Their expressions were controlled, but their voices were sharp. He destabilizes authority, one said. He introduces doubt, another added. Doubt spreads faster than rebellion. This must end. Back on the platform, the silence felt heavier than before. Elias did not know the exact words sent to her, but he knew what councils did when power felt threatened. They want me dead, he said quietly. Violara's eyes snapped back to him. You assume much. You changed, Elias replied. They noticed. The wind between the towers picked up slightly, swirling dust across the black surface of the platform. You are not important enough to threaten the Empire, she said, but her voice carried less certainty than before. Then why are they afraid of my words, he asked. She did not answer. Instead, her armor projected a faint symbol in the air. Within seconds, 2 high-ranking alien officers emerged from the shadows of the tower entrance. They approached carefully, stopping several steps behind her. Commander, one officer said, bowing slightly, the council requests immediate compliance. Elias noticed the wording. Requests. Not commands. The officer continued, the human has demonstrated unacceptable psychological influence. Termination is advised. The word hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. Violara did not turn toward the officer. Her eyes remained on Elias. If I execute you now, she said calmly, your words die with you. No, Elias said. The officer shifted uncomfortably. They spread through you, Elias continued. That was bold. Too bold. The officer stepped forward angrily. Commander, permission to eliminate the subject immediately. Violara raised her hand slightly. The officer froze. She was thinking. The council chamber above buzzed with low frustration. She hesitates. Her judgment is compromised. Prepare override authority. But even override authority required justification. Violara's record was flawless. Decades of perfect victories. Absolute discipline. Absolute loyalty. Until now. On the platform, she finally turned to face the officers. Leave us, she ordered. The officers stiffened. Commander, the council. Leave. Her voice carried its old power again. Sharp. Absolute. The officers bowed and retreated, though tension radiated from their movements. Elias realized something dangerous was happening. She was choosing. Violara faced him again. You have created division, she said. I revealed what was already there, he replied. Her eyes narrowed. You misunderstand our structure. The council ensures stability. Without hierarchy, there is chaos. And without questioning, Elias said, there is blindness. The twin suns had begun to lower slightly, casting longer shadows across the platform. The city felt darker. The council fears weakness, she said. Do you? Elias asked. That question struck harder than he expected. Violara's silence was not empty this time. It was heavy with internal conflict. She had built her identity on strength. On discipline. On unshakable authority. But what if strength was not silence? What if strength was listening? High above, the council made their move. A new signal was sent directly to the orbital fleet. Prepare demonstration strike on human settlement zone. Public execution to follow. Reassert dominance. Violara's armor flashed again. Her gaze flickered for the smallest fraction of a second. Elias saw it. They are going to hurt my people, he said quietly. She did not deny it. A display of consequence restores order, she said, though her voice carried strain now. Or it proves my point, Elias answered. Her eyes sharpened. Explain. If they must destroy cities to protect authority, he said, then authority is fragile. The words cut deep. Fragile. Another forbidden concept. In the council chamber, irritation turned into anger. He challenges her publicly. He reframes discipline as fear. He must die now. On the platform, Violara stepped closer again. So close that Elias could see faint lines beneath her eyes. Lines that did not come from age, but from pressure. You believe you understand the cost of command, she said quietly. I understand isolation, Elias replied. You understand nothing of ruling galaxies. Maybe not, he said. But I understand being human. Her gaze searched his face again, as if looking for deception. There is still time, she said suddenly. For what? For you to retract your statements. Acknowledge error. Accept defeat. And if I do, your execution will be immediate but painless. Elias almost smiled. And if I do not? She hesitated. For the first time since this began, she hesitated openly. The council will escalate. Then escalate, Elias said calmly. His voice did not shake. I would rather die honest than live silent. That sentence struck like thunder. Violara felt it. Because she had once believed something similar. Long ago. Before command. Before conquest. Before silence. Above them, the council activated override protocols. Authorization pending. If Violara did not comply within moments, her command privileges would be reviewed. The air felt tight. The war hung in balance, not because of fleets, but because of a conversation. Violara looked at the city below, then at the horizon where human space burned. Then she looked back at Elias. You force a choice, she said quietly. I offer one, he replied. The council's final warning flashed across her vision. Comply or be replaced. For the first time in her career, Commander Violara felt something unfamiliar. Not fear of battle. Not fear of defeat. Fear of losing control over her own decisions. And as the twin suns dipped lower in the sky, she realized that the council's greatest weapon was not fleets or firepower. It was pressure. Now she stood between two forces. An empire demanding obedience. And a human demanding truth. And whichever path she chose next would not just decide his fate. It would decide the direction of the entire war. The decision came faster than anyone expected. At sunrise on the next cycle, the entire capital city was ordered to gather in the Grand Ascension Arena. It was a massive circular structure built from black stone and silver alloy, wide enough to hold hundreds of thousands of citizens. Above it, alien warships hovered in silent formation like dark witnesses. This was no private execution. This was a message. Elias stood at the center of the arena in reinforced energy restraints. The platform beneath him was raised high so every citizen could see his face. Around him stood elite guards, their weapons glowing faintly. Across from him, elevated on a golden command dais, stood Commander Violara. Above her, in a suspended ring of light, the 12 members of the High Council appeared as towering holographic figures. The air was thick with anticipation. A voice echoed through the arena, amplified and cold. Human resistance leader Elias of Earth. You stand accused of ideological corruption, psychological manipulation, and defiance of imperial authority. The crowd remained perfectly silent. Elias looked out at the sea of alien faces. None showed emotion openly. But thousands of eyes watched him closely. This trial, the council voice continued, is not for justice. It is for demonstration. A ripple of quiet approval moved through sections of the arena. Violara did not speak. She watched. Elias understood something in that moment. This was no longer about survival. It was about narrative. The council wanted to prove that humans were weak. That ideas could not challenge power. A thin beam of light scanned him from head to toe. You are granted one opportunity to retract your statements, the council voice said. Acknowledge the superiority of the Empire. Renounce your claims of weakness within our system. Elias felt the weight of the moment press against his chest. He looked toward Violara. Her face was unreadable. If he bent now, the war would continue as it had. Humans would keep fighting. The Empire would keep conquering. Nothing would change. But if he spoke honestly again, the consequences would be immediate. I will not retract, Elias said clearly. A low murmur spread across the arena. The council's holographic forms flickered slightly. Then speak, the voice commanded. Defend your species. Elias took a slow breath. You conquered our systems, he began. You destroyed our fleets. You broke our defenses. You call that strength? A few alien citizens shifted. But strength is not just the ability to destroy, he continued. Strength is the ability to build something people choose to stand under. The council interrupted sharply. You stand under nothing but defeat. Elias raised his voice slightly, still calm. I stand under hope. The word traveled through the arena like a quiet shockwave. Hope is irrelevant, the council replied. It is the reason we are still here, Elias said. He turned slowly, addressing the crowd directly now. You fear your commander, he said. You respect her power. But do you know her? Gasps rippled through parts of the audience. Violara's fingers tightened slightly on the edge of her dais. You conquered planets, Elias said, looking back at her. But no one chose you. Silence exploded across the arena. The words were not shouted. They were not dramatic. But they cut deep. You command obedience, Elias continued. But obedience is not loyalty. Loyalty is chosen. The council's voice boomed louder now. Enough. Energy crackled around Elias' restraints. But Violara lifted her hand. The execution systems paused. Every eye in the arena shifted to her. For a brief second, the balance of authority tilted. The council's holographic forms flickered with irritation. Commander, one of them said sharply. This demonstration has served its purpose. No, Violara replied calmly. It has not. A collective intake of breath moved through the arena. The council voice hardened. Explain your hesitation. Violara stepped forward on her dais. This human claims our strength is incomplete, she said. If that claim is false, it cannot harm us. The logic was precise. The council could not openly reject logic without undermining their own ideology. Elias watched her carefully. This was more dangerous than any battlefield. If our strength is absolute, she continued, then his words are meaningless. And if they are not, the council pressed. Violara's eyes locked with Elias again. Then we must examine why. The arena shifted. Citizens whispered. Guards exchanged uncertain glances. The council's patience thinned. Your duty is enforcement, not introspection. My duty, Violara replied evenly, is preservation of empire. The tension was almost physical now. Elias understood something important. She was not defending him. She was defending the possibility of change. The council issued the final command. Human subject will be executed immediately. Energy surged around Elias again. But before the strike could fall, Violara stepped down from her dais. She walked slowly across the platform until she stood beside him. Close enough for the entire arena to see. I will carry out the execution personally, she declared. The arena fell into absolute silence. The council approved instantly. Proceed. Violara faced Elias. Up close, her expression was unreadable. You could still retract, she said quietly so only he could hear. I won't, he replied. She studied him for a long moment. You understand that your death will not stop this war. Yes. Then why continue? Because someone in this arena needed to hear it, he said softly. Her eyes flickered. Behind them, the council prepared the final energy discharge authorization. The entire empire watched. Vayalara slowly raised her hand. Energy gathered in her palm. The moment stretched longer than it should have. Long enough for doubt to breathe. Long enough for the crowd to feel uncertainty. Long enough for an idea to settle into thousands of minds. Strength without choice. Power without connection. Obedience without loyalty. Vayalara's hand trembled, almost invisibly. And in that fragile second before the execution strike, the entire empire waited to see whether fear would win again. Or whether something new would begin. Energy gathered in Commander Vayalara's palm, bright and violent, casting sharp light across Elias' face. The entire arena held its breath. The High Council's holographic figures glowed above, waiting for the strike. Alien citizens watched without blinking. Warships hovered in perfect silence. This was the moment that would restore order. Or break it. Vayalara looked into Elias' eyes. He did not close them. He did not beg. He did not whisper a final plea. There was fear inside him, yes. But it was not louder than his resolve. You force instability, she said quietly, so only he could hear. No, Elias answered. I reveal it. The energy in her palm intensified. The air crackled. Inside her armor, the council's command repeated. Proceed. 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 She had followed orders her entire life. Orders built her rank. Orders built the empire. Orders built victory. But orders had also built silence. In that frozen second, Vayalara realized something that terrified her more than rebellion. If she obeyed now, nothing would change. The war would continue. Humans would keep resisting. The empire would keep conquering. The council would tighten control. Doubt would be crushed again. And she would remain alone at the top. Energy surged brighter. The crowd leaned forward. Elias spoke one last time. If strength is real, he said calmly, it does not fear questions. That was it. Not a challenge. Not a threat. A mirror. Vayalara lowered her hand. The energy vanished. The silence that followed was louder than any explosion. The council reacted instantly. Commander, one holographic figure thundered, execute the subject immediately. Vayalara turned slowly toward them. No. The word echoed across the arena. Shock rippled through the crowd. Guards stiffened. Some raised weapons automatically, uncertain where authority now stood. You defy direct order, the council said sharply. I exercise command discretion, Vayalara replied. Your role is enforcement. My role, she said steadily, is preservation of empire. You endanger unity. I prevent blindness. Murmurs began spreading through the arena. Alien citizens were not trained to question. But they were intelligent. They had heard the human speak. They had seen their commander hesitate. They had seen her choose. The council's tone darkened. This human has compromised your judgment. No, Vayalara said calmly. He has clarified it. That sentence was more dangerous than any weapon. Above the arena, several warships adjusted position subtly, awaiting new orders. The council attempted one final push. If this execution does not proceed, we will initiate override authority. Vayalara's eyes sharpened. Override requires proof of incapacity. You demonstrate emotional deviation. I demonstrate adaptive reasoning. The arena trembled slightly as tension reached its peak. Vayalara stepped forward to the center of the platform, placing herself between Elias and the council's projection. Every alien citizen could see her clearly now. For centuries, she declared, her voice amplified across the arena, our empire has equated silence with strength. The crowd remained still, but attention sharpened. We believed obedience ensured loyalty. We believed fear ensured order. The council tried to interrupt. She cut the transmission channel briefly, asserting full local command control. Gasps spread through the audience. This human claims that strength without connection creates fragility, she continued. If our empire is truly strong, then it can withstand examination. The council's holograms flickered angrily as she restored partial transmission. You risk destabilization, one elder warned. No, Violara said. I risk evolution. The word struck like lightning. Evolution. The alien empire had not evolved politically in centuries. It expanded. It conquered. But it did not change. Elias watched quietly. He understood now that this moment was no longer about him. It was about her. The council made a final declaration. If you refuse compliance, your command status will be suspended pending review. Violara did not hesitate. Then review me. The arena erupted in low, chaotic murmurs. Guards looked uncertain. Officers exchanged confused signals. For the first time in public history, a commander had openly challenged the council. Violara turned toward Elias again. You will not be executed, she said. The words felt unreal in the air. Instead of relief, Elias felt something heavier. Responsibility. The council responded coldly. This decision will have consequences. Violara met their gaze without blinking. So will stagnation. The holographic figures faded abruptly, ending transmission. The warships above held position, awaiting further centralized command. But for now, the strike had not been given. Violara faced the crowd once more. Strength is not silence, she said clearly. Strength is the ability to confront truth without collapse. That sentence traveled through thousands of minds. Some rejected it immediately. Some resisted it. But some felt it settle quietly inside them. Elias was escorted backward, no longer toward execution, but toward containment. Not prisoner. Not free. Something undefined. As the arena slowly began to disperse, alien citizens whispered to each other for the first time in generations about something other than orders. Questions. Up in the silent council chamber, the elders stood in rigid formation. This is the beginning of fracture, one said. Or the beginning of transformation, another replied quietly. Back on the platform, Violara stood alone once more under the twin suns. But this time, the solitude felt different. She had chosen. Not fear. Not obedience. Choice. And across the galaxy, fleets still waited. Battles still raged. The war was far from over. But something had shifted that could not be undone. An empire had witnessed doubt. And doubt, once seen, could never be fully erased. The days after the trial did not bring peace. They brought tension. Across the alien capital, communication networks pulsed with quiet debate. Citizens spoke in controlled tones, but they spoke more than before. Officers reviewed protocols twice. Commanders in distant systems waited for updated directives that did not come. The council did not remove Violara immediately. That was the first surprise. They could not. Her military record was unmatched. Her fleets were loyal. Many victories bore her name alone. Removing her too quickly would reveal fear, and fear at the top would confirm the human's words. So instead, the council watched. And waited. Elias was not executed, but he was not released either. He was transferred to a secure observation wing inside the highest tower of the capital. No chains this time. No public display. Just a room with transparent walls overlooking the endless Silver City. He expected interrogation. It did not come. He expected punishment. It did not come. Instead, on the third cycle after the trial, the door to his chamber opened quietly. Commander Violara stepped inside alone. No guards. No weapons drawn. Just her. Elias stood slowly. For a moment, neither spoke. The city stretched behind her through the transparent walls, glowing softly under the twin suns. You remain alive, she said calmly. Yes, Elias replied. There are those who consider that an error. I assumed. She walked toward the window and looked out over her empire. Reports indicate unrest in 3 outer sectors, she said. Nothing violent. But discussion has increased. That is dangerous, Elias said quietly. Yes, she agreed. Discussion often precedes change. She turned toward him. You disrupted equilibrium. You allowed it, he corrected. A faint pause. That is accurate, she said. For the first time, there was no council above her. No arena watching. No public image to maintain. Just a commander and a human. My fleets have halted offensive expansion for now, she said. Elias' eyes sharpened slightly. Temporary, she added. Why, he asked. To assess internal stability, she replied. An empire cannot expand outward while uncertain within. He nodded slowly. You are learning quickly. She studied him again, this time without hostility. You stated that humans fight for connection, she said. Explain why that makes you resilient. Elias stepped closer to the window, standing beside her but not too close. When everything external is lost, he said, we still have each other. That cannot be conquered by ships. You underestimate technological dominance. No, he said. I redefine what dominance means. She considered that. In your species, she asked, are leaders questioned openly? Yes. And they tolerate it. Sometimes poorly, he admitted. But yes. Does this not weaken command? Sometimes, he said. But it also prevents blindness. The word lingered again. Blindness. Violara's gaze shifted toward the horizon, where distant orbital platforms shimmered like artificial stars. For centuries, she said slowly, we eliminated dissent to ensure unity. And now, Elias asked carefully, what do you see? She did not answer immediately. I see efficiency, she said at last. And, he pressed gently. She was quiet for several seconds. I see rigidity. That word cost her something. Outside the tower, movement in the lower districts caught her attention. Small gatherings of citizens. Not protests. Not rebellion. But conversation. Unstructured. Uncontrolled. Alive. The council prepares a vote, she said. Not to remove me. But to restrict authority. You expected that, Elias said. Yes. And I do not intend to resist it, she said. That surprised him. Why? Because absolute authority created this imbalance, she replied. If we are to evolve, power must distribute. He looked at her carefully. You are changing your empire. I am preventing its collapse, she corrected. Far beyond the capital, in distant star systems, alien fleets still occupied human territories. But new orders began to circulate quietly. Engagement protocols adjusted. Civilian impact minimized. Dialogue channels opened in limited sectors. Not surrender. Not peace. But something unfamiliar. Caution. Back in the tower, Violara faced Elias fully. You once asked why no one speaks honestly to me, she said. Yes. Now they begin to. And how does that feel? She hesitated. Unstable, she admitted. And necessary. That single admission marked a shift larger than any battlefield victory. Outside, the twin suns began to lower again, casting long golden light across the city. You understand this does not end the war, she said. I never thought it would, Elias replied. But it may redefine it. He nodded slowly. Wars end in two ways, he said. Through exhaustion. Or through change. And you believe change is possible. I believe someone has to try. She studied him one last time, not as a prisoner, not as an enemy, but as something else. A catalyst. When you first spoke, she said quietly, you told me I was lonely. Yes. I did not understand that statement then. And now. She looked out across her empire once more. I understand that leadership without connection is isolation, she said. And isolation is unsustainable. That was the true turning point. Not the halted execution. Not the public defiance. But understanding. In the weeks that followed, small reforms began. Advisory councils expanded. Junior officers were permitted limited debate in strategic planning. Civilian representatives were invited to policy review sessions. The council resisted, but they adapted. Slowly. Carefully. The empire did not fall. It did not fracture. But it began to breathe differently. And in distant human systems, reports reached resistance networks that something strange was happening. Alien fleets were holding position instead of advancing. Negotiation channels were opening. The war had not ended. But its direction had shifted. Back in the tower, Elias watched the alien city under its twin suns and understood something profound. He had not defeated an empire. He had not won a battle. He had not destroyed a fleet. He had spoken a sentence. And that sentence had forced the most powerful commander in the galaxy to confront something no one had ever dared show her. For the first time in generations, the alien empire did not fear weakness. It examined it. And as Commander Violara stood no longer isolated at the top, but surrounded by voices she had once silenced, the true strength of an empire began to change. Not through fear. Not through conquest. But through choice.